Welcome back to the Metaverse. Today we'll be starting our first ever mini-series on none other than the mad mystic of 47th Street, Neville Goddard. Neville Goddard was one of the most eloquent and prolific promoters of the powers of the mind. Neville was born in 1905 on the small island of Barbados. In 1922, at the tender age of 17, he traveled to New York in order to pursue a career in drama. Well, things took a bit of a turn, and Neville actually ended up as a ballroom dancer. While on tour with his dance company in Europe, Neville came across a Scottish gentleman that introduced him to books on spirituality. And that's what tipped Neville down into the rabbit hole. Eventually, Neville gave up his dancing career to pursue exploring frontiers of the mind. Along the course of his journey, he was introduced to an Ethiopian Jewish gentleman named Abdullah. Abdullah was very well versed in the Kabbalah, which is the mystical branch of Judaism. Under Abdullah's tutelage, Neville learned the powers of the human imagination. Eventually, Neville began promulgating that imagination, as a matter of fact, creates reality. And if you think about this on a very fundamental level, literally everything we use in our day-to-day lives, well, almost everything we use in our day-to-day lives, was at one point in just someone's imagination. Whether it's your laptop, your phone, your favorite applications such as Spotify or YouTube or Facebook, Instagram, even all the clothes that you wear. At the very beginning, all these different things were simply ideas in someone's wild imagination. Neville would go on to lecture to hundreds of people all across the country, particularly in New York, San Francisco, and Los Angeles. During his lectures in New York, his fans assigned to him a very affectionate nickname, the Mad Mystic of 47th Street. Now, out of all the various different approaches to manifestation, Neville's approach by far resonates with me the most. It's simple, concise, and extremely effective. Let's explore a success story from Neville himself. There was a time when Neville was stationed in Louisiana at the height of World War II. And Neville, more than anything, wanted to be back in his apartment in New York City. And the only way to exit the military at the time was by being discharged. So Neville went ahead and applied for his discharge. However, his first application was rejected. So every night, right before falling asleep, Neville would imagine the end state, would imagine him being back in his apartment, and not only that, but more importantly, summon the feeling of the wish fulfilled. During his visualization, he would feel the furniture in his room, the softness and comfort of his bed. He would see the views from his apartment. He used as many senses as possible to emulate the feeling of that end state, of what it would be like to be back in his apartment. And after doing this for day after day, for 8 days straight, Neville was approached by a fellow soldier and was advised to reapply for being discharged. So he applied once more, and this time the colonel calls Neville into the office. He sits Neville down and tells him although he's not fully on board with Neville leaving, he's going to give him the green light to go. And just like that, Neville gets discharged and gets back to his home in New York and reenacts the same scenario that he had visualized night after night for the past week. Now, this may sound too good to be true, but the best way to prove or disprove it is by experimenting with it yourself. Another case study that Neville shares in his book, The Power of Awareness, is that of a young man who's operating a business with his family. During the course of the business, the young man realizes that he would like to expand the family business. In order to do so, they would need a bigger location. And he had just the place in mind. Not too far from where his family business was, there was a huge, much bigger property in which similar business was being conducted. Night after night, the boy, in his imagination, vividly visualized that property with his family name on it. Time ebbed and flowed. In 2 years' time, that building was finally up for sale. Unfortunately, the boy's family at the time didn't have the capital to acquire the property. Mysteriously enough, a gentleman appears to the store and offers to buy it for them. He mentions that he's been seeing how they operate their business for the last few years, and he's very keen on watching them expand and grow, and that, as a matter of fact, he was willing to commit the capital to purchase the bigger property. The property was purchased, and the family's name was stamped on it. Manifestation seemingly appears to occur through plausible but unlikely means. It almost seems to be a coincidence. Manifestation always works in odd ways that you'll never be able to predict. In the next part of the miniseries, we'll be covering his technique in details. But for the time being, if you want to familiarize yourself with more of his work, please check out the books listed below. The cool part about Neville's work is that they're all available online for free. And as usual, if you're enjoying this content, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. For any questions or comments that you may have, share them down below, and I'll see you next time.